Hi, gang. It's Patrick.
And Adam.
Coming up on today's episode, we dance with the DeVille in our spoiler-free review of the newly released Cruella. As always, we discuss the latest Disney news, and we close out the show with some quick D. All that and more on today's episode of Gays Do the D.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Adam Liberty Hummel.
Patrick Piccadilly Kozicki.
Ooh, with an accent and everything. Well done.
Some type of accent. I tried anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe not well done, but done.
It was done. It happened, everybody. It happened.
It happened right here on the show. Adam, how are you, good sir?
I'm doing quite well, Patrick. I can't help but slip into an accent. So this entire episode is going to be so grating for anyone in the UK.
Mm-hmm. I wish you would slip and fall. I wish you would slip and fall.
How are you doing, Patrick?
I am well. Thank you so much for asking. You know, here in the Midwest, at least in Minnesota right now, we're having a little bit of a cold snap this summer. It hasn't reached above 50 degrees yet today, so it's a little chilly here.
I like it. It keeps you fresh.
It keeps me taut and rot. I'm just trying to rhyme now. I don't know what that means.
I like it, Patrick Kozicki.
Ooh, it's going to be a long day.
I'll stop, I swear. I know it must be so annoying for anyone who lives in England and really anyone listening to this episode, I should say.
To anyone who lives.
Yes. Okay, here we go. Let's start the episode. It starts right now. Patrick?
Let's get into it.
Yes. It is Memorial Day weekend here in the States.
It really is. So we take a moment to salute those who have fought and passed away in battle serving our country.
That's right. Regardless of how you feel about the military. You know, feelings about the military can be very complicated, can't they? But we can always honor those that have fallen. So thank you for your service and thank you for really making such a sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice for the protection of our country.
That's right. That's right. We salute you. Thank you so much. And for all of our active service people out there, thank you as well. Yes,
you are doing work I would never in a million years do, and I thank you for that.
I would never want to do it, at least. I may be forced to do it someday, but no one would want me to do that work.
Even if you're forced to, no one's going to want you to do it, Patrick.
It would be the end of our country, really.
Yes, and with that, Patrick, that means we roll into another month. I can't believe it. This year is flying by. We are entering June. That means we are entering Pride Month.
Pew, 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 pew.
It's time to party in your short shorts.
That was my Pride foghorn. Was it good?
Very good. Very good. Better than my accent for sure.
Most things are, but that's right. That's right. Happy Pride, everybody.
We hope you find ways to celebrate that are safe and really make you feel fabulous. Let's make this Pride about feeling fab, you know?
Let's try it. Let's give it a go, shall we? And it's clear we're going to have a giveaway at some point this month, so stay tuned, everybody.
A fabulous giveaway to make you feel even more fabulous than you should already be feeling. It's going to be great, we promise. We'll just figure it out at some point.
That's right. That's right. It's going to be a Pride package, I imagine. So stay tuned to grab onto that Pride package.
Who doesn't love grabbing onto a Pride package?
Everyone loves it. Everyone needs it. Happy Pride, y'all.
And then on top of that, Patrick, as if there wasn't enough going on, we have the opening this week of Avengers Campus in Disneyland Resort.
I mean, happy Pride indeed, you know?
That is truly the gift. Maybe that's our gift. Maybe that's our gift is the opening of Avengers Campus.
That's right. We made it happen. That's for sure.
I wouldn't recommend grabbing packages there, but you know what? Give it a shot. See how it goes.
I can't deny you that. I can't deny you that. Get consent first and then grab a package.
That's right. Get consent. Consent is key. Patrick, how are you feeling about the opening of Avengers Campus?
So exciting. So exciting. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to hear all about it. And we can sort of see it soon, can't we?
That's right. The Avengers Campus opening ceremony is going to be streamed live from Disney California Adventure. this Wednesday, June 2nd at 8:15 p.m. Pacific.
So, Adam, where can people watch this opening ceremony live?
I'm so glad you asked. You can watch it on Disney Parks blog. That's disneyparksblog.com. And the ceremony will also be featured live on Disneyland's Facebook and Twitter channels, as well as Disney Parks blog's Facebook and Disney Parks Twitter channels. Got that, everybody? That was a lot of info, but there's a lot of places where you can catch the opening ceremony.
Basically, just turn on your phone and you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, if you're a true Disney fan, you are already connected to all of these. And if you're not, I guess you're not a true Disney fan. Statement made.
You've made a terrible mistake by tuning into this podcast.
Yeah, so very exciting. And Patrick, let's talk about next week's episode while we're at it. Give the children the news.
Well, as we teased before, we are having a returning guest, everyone's favorite guest on Gaze Do the D. That's Chris from Wishful Thinking. Chris, of course, is our resident travel expert to all things Disney. He is a fee-free vacation planner. That's right, everybody. Fee-free vacation planning. I know a lot of our Tweedles have used Chris's services in the past and are still using his services, and they love him. They rave about the deals that they get and about all of the trip planning advice that they get. He's incredible. He's a gem.
He is a gem, and that lucky gem of a human being is going to be attending the opening day of Avengers Campus, and then the very next day he's going to hop on with us to record our next week's episode, where we're going to talk about his experience at the opening day of Avengers Campus, as well as the kind of current park-going experience at Disneyland Resort. So if you have a vacation planned for Disneyland Resort, or if you're considering planning a vacation to Disneyland Resort now that you can, more on that in the news. Feel free to reach out to us via DM on our Instagram at GDTD Podcast. Send us all of your questions. Chris will be only too happy to answer all of your questions, and we'll have some fun while doing it. Don't you think, PK?
We'll have some laughs. We'll have some giggles.
We'll be giggling like little girls. So send us your questions, and be sure to check out next week's episode, where we'll be talking all about the newly opened Avengers Campus.
Indeed. Well, moving right along, Adam, we have some sad news to talk about. This past week, Samuel E. Wright passed away at the age of 74 years old. Of course, everybody knows and remembers Samuel E. Wright's delightful voice as Sebastian in The Little Mermaid.
Patrick, everyone's dying.
I mean, it happens. It's the circle of life, Adam, as Disney has taught us.
Oh, I love when you cross-reference Disney films like that. You've really hit that nail right on the head. It is the circle of life. Yes, Samuel E. Wright passed away. Sebastian, in so many iterations of The Little Mermaid, he was the voice of Sebastian in, of course, the 1989 classic animated film, and then in 2 direct-to-video sequels and video games, Patrick. He was Sebastian in video games.
It's true. He was basically the Sebastian for years and years and years and years. And we have to say, he was also Mufasa on Broadway's The Lion King.
Talk about circle of life. You circled right back to that reference. He was Tony nominated for that performance.
Yeah, he was an incredible gifted man.
And also, as if that were not enough, there is yet another Disney connection. He voiced Kron, the iguanodon in Dinosaur, that was released in the year 2000.
He did indeed. Adam, have you still not seen that movie?
I still have not seen Dinosaur.
Okay, we're going to have to do a take 1 of Dinosaur for Adam.
Yeah, there should be a whole new series. Adam has never watched ... and we just watch movies that I've never seen.
We could do this podcast for years and years and years.
That's true. There's like 90% of Disney's live action catalog that I have not seen.
True story. But circling back to Samuel E. Wright, we miss you. We are sad that you are no longer with us, but you are with us in spirit.
Yes, absolutely. Our condolences to his family, and thank you, Samuel E. Wright, for all of the gifts you shared with us.
Thank you so much. Well, let's move on. Adam, a few trailers dropped this past week. The Eternals and the Jungle Cruise official trailer dropped as well.
That's right. One we've kind of seen before.
A little bit, yeah. Iterations of, at least.
The Jungle Cruise, as all of you know, was supposed to be released last year, and then Disney put a hold on it. They put a pin in that and said, you know what? Let's wait and see how this pandemic thing plays out. Fortunately for us, it seems to be wrapping up, fingers crossed, which means that The Jungle Cruise is going to be coming out in theaters, and it will also be released simultaneously on Disney Plus with Premier Access.
That's right. That'll be dropping this July, fingers crossed at least. What'd you think of the trailer?
I'm more sold on it now than I was the first kind of teaser we saw last year.
Yeah, same here. If nothing else, I don't know how to describe it, but the coloring that they're using for the film is really beautiful. It's lovely. It's like a lush, almost like rosy colored movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's got that beautiful kind of... Is patina the right word? You know, it's set in, I'm going to say the 40s, Patrick. Does that seem right?
Sure. Why not? Why ever not?
Okay. But it's definitely got that kind of look to it where it's like technicolor-y, kind of a nod to old Hollywood, Patrick.
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody who's a subscriber of D23 just recently got their D23 magazine with the Jungle Cruise on the cover. It's a really great article, and that also made me want to see the movie even more.
And it came with that fantastic centerfold of Dwayne Johnson.
That didn't come in mine. I don't know. I think I missed that. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. It came with mine.
Fair. You know, here's the thing. I'm not... He's not my type. That's what I'll say.
Is he too hulking for you?
I think so. I'm not usually into that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. I mean, I'd like to try a hug.
I can appreciate that he's objectionably like a beautiful human being, like across the board.
For sure, yeah.
But yeah, I think he would break me. I think that's the problem.
Yes, he would squish your guts right out of your mouth and any other orifices.
Hashtag wreck me king.
No, beautiful man, and has a great sense of humor when it's utilized properly. I'm looking at you, Baywatch. What a mess. But I think in this movie, it's really going to be great. And he and Emily Blunt, and I believe I referenced this a year ago when we talked about the teaser, they do seem to have really fantastic chemistry.
Well, that's mentioned a lot, actually, in the article about how well they got along on set. So either it's true or they are covering something up.
Yeah, but it looks to be a great action adventure film, kind of in the vein of, what do we got there? A little Indiana Jones, maybe?
Little Indiana Jones, a little bit of Romancing the Stone, for those of you who remember that movie.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, very exciting. So let's move on. Also, the Eternals dropped their first trailer, I believe.
Yeah, this was their first teaser even.
That's right. It wasn't a full trailer. It was a little bit of a teaser. It was quite the teaser, though. We got quite a glimpse of the full cast, really.
Yes, for the first time. It was great to see them all in action. And Patrick, the teaser was viewed over 77 million times in its first 24 hours on the intranet.
On the onlines. Yeah, it's a great teaser. It really is a teaser, though. You get just a taste of what we might expect in the movie. And I got to say, could there be a more beautiful cast?
All of them. Speaking of wanting hugs, I'd hug that entire cast.
Yeah. Fair enough. I think for me, Gemma Chan might be the most beautiful person in all the land.
The teaser does really seem to tease her and Richard Madden's relationship in the film. And if the film was just that, just the two of them, I mean, blockbuster right there, right?
And may I submit to you, Adam, Salma Hayek as the new voice for Spaceship Earth?
Oh, what an excellent choice.
I could listen to her all day long. There's something so like soothing and engaging about her voice.
I also love her crown/headpiece in the teaser. I want one for myself.
Yeah. There's a real costume story happening in this movie for sure.
Yes, choices were made, absolutely. But what really intrigues me is the story, because we don't know much about it. But it does seem to have a very kind of ethereal, almost like, did Terrence Malick direct The Tree of Life? Did you see The Tree of Life, Patrick?
I did not.
Okay. I'm getting Tree of Life vibes from this trailer, and I'm not mad at that. Like, I feel if we go a little bit more esoteric with this Marvel film, if we get a little bit more heady with it, I'm game for that.
Okay, yeah. Listen, we have no idea. Who can say? They're probably still writing it. Who knows?
If it's not that, my review of it is going to be thumbs down.
Just trash it. But all we do know so far is that it's going to be a beautiful cast to watch, whether or not the story is any good.
Yes, if you have thoughts on either the Jungle Cruise trailer or the Eternals teaser that were released last week, please reach out to us. Let us know. Talk to us. How are you feeling about these two films?
How you feeling? How you feeling? We should also talk about, Adam, I added this to the show notes. The Launchpad short film catalog was just released on Disney+. For those who don't know, Launchpad is a program that Disney started quite recently that highlights up-and-coming diverse talent. And man alive, these shorts are fantastic. I just watched The Little Princess today.
Yes.
Oh boy, did I cry.
Oh, I haven't had a chance to check these out yet. I did notice, however, that my film was not accepted.
What was the title of your film, Adam?
Well, I haven't made it yet.
Okay. I don't know that they're looking for yet another white man's voice, but I could be wrong.
Hey, I'm gay.
Are you? I don't know. Sometimes
I have been liking monster truck rallies a lot lately. It's a confusing time for old Adam Hummel.
It is. But I implore you all to check out this new film series. They're fantastic.
Yeah, and you can say, I knew these directors when, because these are people that will undoubtedly kind of work their way up through the Hollywood system. Are we calling it a system? I don't know. But they're going to be the next gen of Hollywood talent. So let's appreciate them now. Let's get in while we can and celebrate their rise to stardom.
I love it.
And speaking of rising stars, Patrick, we have a new Patreon family member.
What a great segue. What a delicious segue, Adam. You are correct. Ben is the newest member of our Patreon family.
Ben, what can I say but thank you for your support.
Thank you so much, Ben. We love you. We adore you, as we do all of our Tweedles and our Patreon members. Adam, I'm going to put you on the spot. If someone wants to become a Patreon member, where can they do that?
They can do that by visiting our very own website. Did you know we have a website, Tweedles? We do. You can find our website at gazetothed.com. And on that website, there's a little tab that says donate. And if you click on that tab, it'll take you to our Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, reoccurring a month, you can become a Patreon family member.
Amazing. You will not only have the gift of knowing that you're supporting the greatest podcast on earth.
Okay.
Listen, if you put it into the world, it'll happen. That's what I've learned from Oprah.
All right. You're right. You're right.
The greatest podcast on earth. But not only that, you'll also receive bonus episodes of the greatest podcast on earth called Gaze to the D, Raw and Uncut.
Raw and Uncut.
That was delightful. What a delightful day this is so far.
That was Oprah.
Look under your chairs. You get a raw and uncut. You get a raw and uncut.
That's right. Yeah, you get those fun little episodes where Patrick and I really just go off the rails and talk about whatever the heck we want. It's very conversational, very light, frothy, fun. Get into it. Unedited even. Oh, yeah. Mistakes galore. We just leave them all in. It's gross.
It's disgusting, really. Really disgusting. And on top of that, Adam, if you donate at select tiers within the Patreon family levels, you get a gift direct from us.
Do you have a trip coming up where you're going to be visiting Disney parks? Guess what? Become a Patreon family member at one of those tiers, and in your second month of membership, we'll ship you certain gifts that you might be able to sport while visiting a Disney park.
But wait. There's more. You also get automatically entered into Patreon member-only giveaways right here on the podcast.
Yeah, remember at the top of the episode when we talked about a Pride Month giveaway? Maybe there'll be a Patreon-only giveaway of that Pride package that you'll be able to grab.
And by maybe, we mean definitely.
Okay, we're committed. It's down on wax, Patrick. This apparently is being recorded on a record, so it's happening now.
That was the oddest reference that I'm here for it, though.
Yes, but thank you, Ben. Thank you so much. And to all of our Patreon family members, we are so grateful to have you supporting us. We just love you, all of you.
We do. We're in love with you. And you know what else I'm in love with, Adam?
What's that?
That's Disney history. That's right. It's time once again for This Week in Disney History.
I love it. Lay it on us, Patrick. Teach us now.
Here we go. 13 years ago, Adam, on May 31st, 2008, Toy Story Midway Mania opened in Disney's Hollywood studios. The attraction remains one of the most technologically sophisticated attractions for Disney. It was the very first time Disney used industrial Ethernet on a ride system. The ride actually consists of 3 different control systems working simultaneously, one for the ride vehicle, one for the interactive game, and one for the special effects. It cost the company $80 million to create Toy Story Midway Mania.
Fun fact, this podcast costs us $80 million per episode.
That's right. You can head on over to gazetothed.com, click on that donate button.
That's true. You know, I heard in Midway Mania that if the ride breaks down, you call IT and they just tell you to restart the ride.
Have you restarted your computer? Have you tried that? Yes, I tried that, Bob.
I've tried it 5 times, Bob.
Never works. But man, Toy Story Midway Mania still one of my favorite attractions, I think.
And if I may, Patrick, reference a previous episode. And spoiler alert, if you haven't listened to that episode, Patrick, it was your number 1 Fab 5 Disney Parks queue.
I mean, it's fantastic. The queue, the ride, all of it works harmoniously together.
Yeah, I remember when that ride opened, I took a trip shortly after that, and the mania of trying to get to that ride at Park Open was bonkers.
Oh, yeah. That was back when rope drop was a literal thing. Remember that?
Back when they did it, they would, put you into those different corrals, if I may use a rancher's reference, and they would kind of rope drop you through various sections of the park until they walked you to the attraction.
Walk, not run. I think they called it like the March of the Toys or something to Midway Mania.
Very cute. Very cute. Kind of creepy.
Little bit creepy. Well, moving on, Adam. Incidentally, on the very same day, 13 years ago, May 31st, also Toy Story related, a Buzz Lightyear action figure joined the crew of the Space Shuttle Discovery on flight STS-124 on its journey to infinity and beyond, but actually to the International Space Station, where it delivered the largest module of the space station. The addition of Buzz to the crew was part of a collaboration with Disney's Youth Education Series and NASA to get kids excited about science.
That is some fantastic PR.
I mean, yeah, you can't put a Toy Story character on a space shuttle and shoot it into space. Watch out, Universal. Disney's here to stay.
It's true. It's true. Someday I hope one of our episodes will be shot into space.
I'm going to shoot you into space, Adam.
I think a lot of people would enjoy witnessing that.
I love it. All right. Well, let's move on to our last piece of Disney history. 90 years ago, Adam, on June 1st, 1931, at the age of 48, artist Albert Herder joined the Disney staff as their very first inspirational sketch artist. It was well known that Herder was not a gifted animator, but he was an amazing sketch artist, bringing whimsy and surrealism and exaggeration to characters and objects. His job was to provide pages and pages of sketches that would inspire the animators to create characters. His influence can be seen in shorts like The Three Little Pigs, The Goddess of Spring, and Water Babies. Beyond that, Herder was born in Switzerland, where he studied art and architecture, so he was able to provide the more realistic architecture to movies like Snow White, Pinocchio, and Dumbo. Now, as I mentioned, he was hired on at the age of 48 and was considered the old man in the office, but his sketches inspired elements in almost every Disney movie up until his death in 1942. Even after his death, his sketches lived on and inspired elements in Peter Pan and Lady and the Tramp.
Wow, that's awesome to kind of have that later in life or later in your career kind of transition to such a creative role.
Really cool to be an inspirational sketch artist. So basically, he was the muse for a lot of characters and objects and set pieces that the animators actually went on to create.
That's so cool. You know, we don't celebrate enough the people behind the animators who are providing storyboards and sketches to inspire them. They really are kind of like the spark, you know, to get the animators on the right track and to give them the inspiration of where the film needs to go.
Exactly. So that wraps up this week in Disney history, Adam.
That is fantastic. And Patrick, that means it is time now for us to get into our 1970s style news anchor jackets, get behind the features desk, and deliver to our Tweedles the Disney news.
I'm Patrick Kozicki, and this is the news.
That was a really good Walter Cronkite.
Thank you so much. I've been working on it all day long.
I teed up this story in banter so successfully, didn't I?
So successfully.
Thank you for the validation in starting off this news segment. I appreciate it. I shall continue. Last week, it was announced that beginning June 15th, Disneyland Resort will once again be able to welcome travelers from outside the state of California. Out-of-state visitors may now begin booking their return to the parks on Disneyland.com. Until June 15th, all guests visiting the Disneyland Resort must be California residents, visiting in groups no larger than 3 households. The state of California strongly recommends that all guests be fully vaccinated or obtain a negative COVID-19 test prior to entering the theme parks. In addition, all guests will be required to wear an approved face covering throughout their visit at the Disneyland Resort. As always, procedures may change as the resort continues to update its health and safety processes based on the guidance from the state of California and local health officials. As we reported in last week's episode, to enter a theme park, all guests ages 3 and older need to have both a ticket and theme park reservation for the same park on the same date. Disneyland Resort also shared an additional update on the theme park reservation system last week. The booking window for theme park reservations has expanded out to 120 days, allowing guests even more time to plan their return to the resort. The latest details on everything mentioned in this story and more can be found by visiting Disneyland.com/updates. 120 days, Patrick.
That is a lot of dates. That's a lot of dates.
Something I think Californians are going to have to get used to.
It's true. It's true. I mean, it just makes good sense, right? People are still a little bit confused about when they want to go, when they feel comfortable going. So giving them a wider window of opportunity to make that plan just makes perfect sense to me.
It does seem a bit like Walt Disney World vibes, does it not? I think the locals park is kind of transitioning now to becoming more of a destination as opposed to just a locals park.
Well, I mean, with the opening of Avengers Campus, they're now slowly returning to a unique destination as well.
And once those expanded areas open that we talked about several weeks ago, Disneyland Resort is going to be not just a 1-day, 2-day visit anymore. It's going to be more of an experience.
Oh, for sure. For sure. You're going to want to book at least a 4-day trip, I would imagine, now for Disneyland/DCA.
8 days, 9 days.
25 days. 120 days, I think is what they're hoping.
120 days, you book it out, and that's how many days you're going to want to be there, yes.
Moving on over to the other coast, as Disney World slowly increases their park capacity limits, Disney transportation systems have begun to increase their capacity as well. The Disney Skyliner has started loading more than one group per cabin, and the social distancing markers have been removed from the Magic Kingdom ferry. As of this recording, the monorail and the Disney buses do still have plexiglass dividers and are not loading at full capacity, but word on the street is that this will likely change in the coming weeks. It should be noted that though capacity is increasing, the mask mandate on transportation systems is still in effect. Speaking of, as expected, the new outdoor mask optional policy at Disney World has caused some guest confusion. In response, Disney has placed new mask on signage at the entrances of stores, restrooms, and attractions to remind guests to put their masks back on while indoors.
Pretty straightforward. I mean, just do your research before your trip, right? Just to know where the masks are required and where you can be free of them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the signs just make good sense. I will say these days it is getting confusing where you need to and where you don't need to wear a mask. Every state is different, I feel like, and every retail location, every restaurant has their own rules as well within the states. So I understand. I understand the confusion. We saw it coming, but just be aware, everybody. Be aware.
You referenced the Magic Kingdom fairy in this story, Patrick. You know, I often think of you as the Magic Kingdom fairy.
I am. Happy Pride, everybody.
Virtual queues have become a hot topic on Diz Twitter the past few weeks. Patrick, are you a Diz Twitterer?
I kind of left Twitter on the side of the road in a burning barrel.
Okay, that was not a peaceful parting then.
No, I disposed of that body thoroughly.
If you're not a fan of virtual queues, you won't like this next story. Last Thursday, it was announced that Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure, that title, the premier attraction of Avengers Campus, at least in this phase of the campus's opening, will be utilizing a virtual queue. As with Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, the virtual queue will only be accessible via the Disneyland mobile app. Distribution times for virtual queue enrollment are daily, 7 o'clock a.m. and 12 o'clock p.m. In order to give as many guests as possible the opportunity to sling webs alongside Spider-Man, each guest can enter the virtual queue no more than once per day. Guests with a valid ticket and theme park reservation who will start their day at Disney California Adventure Park can access the virtual queue system via the Disneyland app and check for an available boarding group starting at 7 o'clock a.m. on the day of their park reservation. I realized I just called that a boarding group, but it's probably not called a boarding group for web slingers, so deal with it, folks. Just deal with it. Guests who were unable to join a boarding group, oops, I did it again, at that time may check for an available boarding group, wow, Adam, beginning at 12 o'clock p.m. This can be done before guests leave their hotel, home, or wherever else you may be at the time. You will need to have park tickets linked to your Disney account and applicable theme park reservations. To access the virtual queue opportunity beginning at 12 o'clock p.m., guests must have a valid ticket and park reservation and have entered Disney California Adventure Park or Disneyland Park with a Park Hopper ticket by noon. Guests beginning their day at Disneyland Park may then enter Disney California Adventure Park with their Park Hopper ticket after 1 o'clock p.m. for their boarding group, holy moly, as applicable. You'll receive a push notification via the Disneyland app if your group is called to return. You'll have up to an hour from the time of the alert to go to the entrance of Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure. The only way to experience Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure, is with valid admission into Disney California Adventure Park and via the virtual queue. No standby lines are available. Hear that, everybody? No standby lines. Access to a boarding group, wowzers, is subject to availability and not guaranteed. Distribution times are subject to change or cancellation. Joining the virtual queue does not guarantee the ability to experience Web Slingers, a Spider-Man, blah, blah, blah. Guests may only enter a virtual queue once per day for each attraction and may not hold a boarding group for Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, that's proper usage there, and Web Slingers, a Spider-Man, and blah, blah, at the same time. And if you think virtual queues are just a fad, Patrick, I've got some news for you, my friend.
Uh-oh.
At last Monday's J.P. Morgan Global Technology, Media, and Communications Conference, which both Patrick and I attended, did we not?
We did not. You're right. We did not.
We did not. Disney CEO Bob Chapek credited virtual queues, such as the boarding groups for Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, as examples of how technology helped guests stay safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. It sounds like these aren't going anywhere anytime soon. It sounds like they're going to be implemented in even more attractions. It seems like Bobby Chapek, we're very close, I can call him Bobby, is making the case for continued use of virtual queues.
I mean, do we need anyone to make a case for it? Who isn't a fan of virtual queues? I don't know.
So many people on Diz Twitter. I don't understand it. I guess they're just not willing to feel that rush of excitement during the times in which virtual queues become available, or boarding groups, or whatever you want to call it. I don't get it. I think they're great, but there's a lot of people that don't like them.
Yeah, fair. I do see the point where if you have a very limited vacation and the only thing you want to do is go on web slingers, right? And you don't get a pass to go on it, then, you're a little upset. You're pretty mad. So I can see that. I can totally see that. But there are so many options available. I imagine they've taken that into consideration, especially since you can only go on it once. I imagine they're finding a way that everyone will have a chance. You just have to figure out what time that chance is.
It's Hunger Games level of competition, Patrick. And if you're not fit enough, if you're not quick enough, too bad, too sad.
That's rough, Adam. Watch out, Lion King, step aside, Aladdin. The toast of New York now comes with some honey. That's right, Winnie the Pooh is heading to the stage this fall in an all-new musical. Adam, you have something to say about that sentence, I can tell.
I think it was brilliantly crafted. It did make me hungry for toast with honey.
Toast and honey. It's the new trend that's happening. The new Winnie the Pooh musical is called Winnie the Pooh, the New Musical Adaptation. Not a fan. Not a fan of that title. It should clearly be called Winnie the Poohsicle.
Oh, Patrick, yeah.
Why? Why did they not think of that? Winnie the Poohsicle is the best title I've ever heard of. Let's start a petition. Start a petition now. But starting October 1st, Winnie the Pooh, Christopher Robin, and all your favorite characters from the 100-Acre Wood will come to life on stage, featuring the classic Grammy Award-winning music from the Sherman Brothers and new songs adapted from A.A. Milne's writing. The show was developed by the amazingly talented and handsome AF Jonathan Rockefeller, whose credits include The Very Hungry Caterpillar Show, Paddington Gets in a Jam, and That Golden Girls show, a puppet parody. The show will use life-size puppetry to bring these classic stories to the stage. A quote from Rockefeller, "I doubt there is anyone who hasn't been profoundly moved or feels a personal connection with the wonderful characters of Pooh. The question we posed ourselves when creating this intimate musical adaptation was, how do we bring Pooh from the screen and onto the stage in an entirely fresh and new way?" That sentence makes me giggle. Yet one that still pays homage to the deep canon of Winnie the Pooh iconography. We needed to create incredible, brilliant, and amazing puppetry that makes it impossible to believe the characters aren't real. Tickets to Winnie the Pooh, the new musical adaptation, aka Winnie the Poohsicle, will go on sale to the general public this June 14th. To learn more about the show and to purchase tickets, go to winniethepoohshow.com.
Wouldn't it be awesome?
Uh-oh, here we go.
If, they said they're going to expand the songs in the musical, so it's going to feature the Sherman Brothers songs, but then it also included songs from Elton John, so that Pooh has this incredible 11 o'clock number that just rips the house down.
I'm into this. I want to see Rabbit do a Hamilton style rap. Yeah. I think I'm into that. Winnie the Poohsicle review. Oh, hello, Adam.
Oh, hello, Patrick.
Oh, dear. I knew it. I knew that was going to happen. Oh, it's going to be a long recording. Adam, I tell you what, I cannot get the song Cruella de Vil out of my head.
Yeah, that's definitely an earworm. And you know what, though? That's okay. It's a good one, right? It's a good song.
It's a good tune. That's for sure. Well, let's just jump right in, Adam. Cruella, after 97 years of production, has finally come out as the first, I believe, right, Disney movie to hit the theaters this year.
Is that true? Have there been no other? Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Who can keep track? Certainly not a podcast focused on Disney.
Yeah. Yeah, fair. I don't believe in the United States anyways that Raya and the Last Dragon was released in theaters. I think it was only on Disney Plus.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so Cruella, here we go, making her way into the theaters, making her way onto Disney Plus with Premiere Access.
That's right. That's right. So Adam and I both watched Cruella this past week. Adam, did you go to the theaters or did you watch it at home on Disney Plus?
I stayed in my comfy, cozy home. What about you?
I actually ventured out to the movie theater for the first time since we both saw Onward together.
Wow. Tell me, how did it feel?
It felt great. It felt great. The theater that I went to is taking a lot of safety precautions. They are taking the mask policy, the distancing policy very seriously, which felt comfortable. Just because I wanted to really donate to the theater, I did buy some popcorn. So that was my gift to those essential workers at the movie theater.
What a surprising, unexpected move on your part.
Surprising. Yeah. No one saw that coming. Wrecked it. I wrecked some popcorn.
Yeah, I mean, there's something very special about movie theater popcorn. I know your connection to it, your desire for it. And so I can only imagine after this length of time, how much sweeter, and I don't mean that literally, it tasted to you.
So good. I mean, to say that I can't put my finger on it is a falsehood because it's the pounds and pounds of oil that they cook in with the popcorn that makes it taste so delicious.
And after a harsh Minnesota winter, just a little bit of moisture, moisturizing butter, oil, right on your T-zone.
Yeah, I think that's the main ingredient in all of the Origins products is actually popcorn oil. But we digress. We're not here to talk about movie popcorn, but we could have a whole podcast devoted to movie popcorn, that's for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we are here to talk about Cruella, which was just released. We are going to give a spoiler-free review of the movie Cruella. I'm very excited, Adam.
Me too. You know, we talked about the trailer on this podcast and we'd had mixed feelings about it. And you went on quite a journey with this movie before you even saw it because you were kind of all in with the first trailer. Then you kind of fell off it a bit and didn't feel so positive about it. And then you came back around and were very excited just prior to its release.
Yeah. I've been on a real emotional roller coaster ride with this movie, and boy, has it been some time. It was originally teased as a movie back in 2013 as a Disney project. I mean, that's how long it's been in the making. So we finally get our Cruella.
All right. Well, how do you want to tackle this, Patrick? How do you want to walk us through this experience?
Such a good question. Let's do some quick movie specs, if you will, and then let's just start talking about our feelings about the movie, maybe highlight some notable cast members within the movie. How does that sound?
That sounds perfect to me.
Fantastic. I'll jump right in if you don't mind. So I like to start off with how critics are thinking about the movie. So if you go to Rotten Tomatoes right now, the film holds a 73% score based on critics' reviews and a 97% score based on audience reviews.
Interesting. So kind of a span there, a little bit of a disparity.
Yeah, for sure. It's getting very mixed reviews, but the general consensus right now reads on Rotten Tomatoes, Cruella can't quite answer the question of why its title character needed an origin story, but this dazzling visual feast is awfully fun to watch whenever its leading ladies lock horns.
Oh, interesting. That feels close to how I feel about it.
Yeah, that feels pretty correct. That's for sure. Now, as I mentioned before, this film has gone on quite a historical journey, if you will. As I said, it was teased back in 2013 as a Disney project, and then Emma Stone was hired on in 2016, and most of the principal photography was happening in 2019. But between 2013 and 2019, virtually nothing was said about this movie until the D23 Expo in 2019, when they dropped the first few marketing images. And the script and the movie went through multiple writers and directors before finally landing on a script and production team in late 2018. Now, here's a fun fact about the filming, maybe not so fun for Emma Stone, but filming was delayed when she dislocated her shoulder when she fell off of her friend's shoulders at a Spice Girls concert in 2019.
That old chestnut. Who hasn't that happened to?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real common occurrence around here, that's for sure.
I completely forgot about that, too. Like, I remember now that you mention it, yes, she did have an injury that caused them to delay the filming of the movie.
Amazing. Yeah, the film has been on pause and then started filming and then it was on pause again, and they weren't quite sure where they were going with the direction of this movie for a long time. So I'm so interested in how they got to the film that we know now.
So before we get into the creative team behind the film, Patrick, let's just kind of give a quick summary of the film. I think a lot of our listeners probably are aware of the basic idea of the story, which is that it is an origin story for Cruella de Vil, and it features Emma Stone playing a character named Estella, who falls on some hard times and befriends two pickpockets in London, two characters we're all familiar with if you've seen 101 Dalmatians. And the film is about Estella's rise from lowly pickpocket to kind of a celebrated designer in the fashion industry, and how then that kind of celebrity that affords her turns her into the character Cruella de Vil.
Yeah, the movie sort of provides an inside look of, or at least it tries to, I'll say, of how we get from a girl named Estella to a woman/villain named Cruella.
And as with any kind of live action treatment to Disney content, you know, we have a lot of winks and nods to the original 101 Dalmatians animated film. We have some nods to the Glenn Close live action remake of 101 Dalmatians. A lot of little references to those movies, but then Disney takes some big swings in this story in attempting to develop not only the character of Cruella via Estella, but also flesh out her history and introduce us to some new characters along the way.
Yeah, the movie does this interesting dance between trying to tie all of the 101 Dalmatian properties together, but also makes its own assumptions as well and sort of blows the story up a little bit.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to put it, Patrick. They do celebrate the older films, but then also try to inject some new life into the story.
Yeah, for sure. Let's dive into the production team a little bit, who gave us this movie, and then we can dive more into our feelings about the success or not success of said movie.
Yes, let's do that. The film was directed by Craig Gillespie, who directed Lars and the Real Girl, United States of Terra, episodes of that, and I, Tonya.
Indeed, which makes a lot of sense. This movie is a little bit of a slow burn of a movie for a villain's story, and that's kind of Craig Gillespie's bag, right? He gives us a really full story, but it's sort of a slow read, if you will.
Yeah, and I would say there is like this kind of I, Tonya feel to it in that it's heavy on narration. It's very much about Estella telling us her story from the very beginning and walking us through how she becomes Cruella.
Yeah, that's true. It is a heavily narrated film. I didn't expect that.
I didn't either, or at very least, I kind of assumed like, okay, there's probably going to be some narration at the beginning, but it is peppered throughout the film.
Which is, I think, was a little bit successful in that you sort of get a little bit more invested in the character of Cruella than you may have been before. There's an interesting dance as an audience member to relate to a villain, if that makes sense, and that's hard to do sometimes. And I thought that they did it pretty well.
Plus, it's just fun to listen to Emma Stone's voice, right? Like she's got that nice kind of raspy tone to her, and I dig it. Yeah,
for sure. I will say though, come at me if you want to, her accent slipped in and out a little too much for my liking. I clocked that a little bit. I was like, ooh, that was very American the way you said that. So I don't know if dialect is her bag necessarily.
And see, I thought her accent was pretty spot on. But again, I mean, consider the source and my accents. You know, I clearly have no idea what a proper sounding British accent should sound like.
We'll have to head on over to Once Upon a Scream Boys to tell us what they thought of her accent.
Yeah, comment below, Ben and Mikey. Let us know.
Let us know. Moving on, the screenplay was by Dana Fox and Tony McNamara. Now, Dana Fox, you may remember her writings from The Wedding Date. I actually really love that movie. Couple Retreat, Ben and Kate, How to Be Single, Home Before Dark, and she is currently working on the My Best Friend's Wedding reboot. And Tony McNamara is known for The Secret Life of Us, Love My Way, Spirited, Puberty Blues, and The Favorite, of which he got an Oscar nomination.
Oh, interesting. So Emma Stone in The Favorite, and he also worked on that.
True story. An interesting pairing, these two, Dana Fox and Tony McNamara. You wouldn't really expect them to write a Disney movie together based on their previous works.
That is an interesting pairing. Yeah, Tony McNamara wrote Puberty Blues, huh?
Indeed he did.
I don't know what that is, but I'm curious.
Everyone's going to pause now and watch Puberty Blues and return to us later.
The story was by Aline Broche McKenna, who worked on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Ooh, I like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Kelly Marcel, who wrote Saving Mr. Banks, 50 Shades of Grey, and Venom. Boy, is that a bizarre combo of screenplays. Kelly. And Steve Zissis, who wrote Togetherness. Imagine what that writing room was like. How bizarre. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Saving Mr. Banks, 50 Shades of Grey, and Venom. And these people are just like pitching story elements. I would love to have been a fly on the wall.
I want to know what didn't make it into this movie.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Now I have to give a huge shout out to the art direction of this movie. That for me, beyond anything, was incredibly successful, and we have Martin Foley to thank for that. He served as the art director. Martin Foley worked on movies like The One and Only Ivan, the Harry Potter franchise movies, Hugo, and the Fantastic Beasts movies, which you can tell that this is the man who did those movies, because there's such lush, amazing sets and costumes, and it all works really well together, I thought.
Yeah, some excellent world building here. Great kind of nods to the decade in which the film is set, the 70s. It's set in London, but it also kind of has its own world quality to it. Like, they really didn't need to set it in the 70s London. It could have been another world, or, not tied to a time or a place, and still really worked.
Yeah, they did a wonderful job of giving us a sense of reality, but then heightening it just a smidge, just enough that it's sort of romantic and fantastical.
We also need to celebrate the costume designer. Obviously, the costume designer was a huge part of this film. I couldn't tell, Patrick, if you're a costume designer, is it like heaven to land a movie like this, or is it absolute hell where you are tied to not only an animated film and the costumes in it, but then also developing actual fashion, believable fashion for a time period and movements within that time period? We have nods to punk. We have nods to couture in the 70s in London. Is it a gift to be given that, or is it a nightmare?
I have to imagine a little bit of both. I mean, they found the right costume designer, that's for sure.
That's right. Academy Award winning, Patrick?
That's right.
Winning costume designer for Mad Max Fury Road and A Room with a View, and that is Jenny Beavan. She also designed costumes for The Nutcracker and the Four Realms, Christopher Robin, The King's Speech, Anna and the King, Gosford Park, oh, I love Gosford Park, and Swing Kids.
Her work is really on full display in this movie, and you can tell by the breadth of work that she's done a lot of period films, some current movies, some future movies, and they all really blended together, I thought, for Cruella. The costumes were all over the map, but also really made a cohesive story as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, so shout out to Jenny Beavan, or Bevan, however that's pronounced. Fabulous costumes, and quite the range of costumes presented on screen.
For sure. Last but not least, I have to mention Nicholas Britell, who provided the original score for this movie. I really loved it. The music played such a wonderful part in this movie. Not only the score, but also the soundtrack that accompanied the movie as well. I really loved it. Nicholas Britell is known for the Underground Railroad TV series, Succession, If Beale Street Could Talk, Moonlight, and The Big Short.
Now, see, for me, the score was great, but the actual soundtrack, like the actual existing songs from the 70s, were a little distracting to me, only because there were so many of them added to the movie. I get why they did that, but that happens a lot in films where it seems like they're trying to convey time so heavy-handedly that it gets to be a little too much for me, a little distracting when there's like song after song after song after song.
Oh, interesting. I have the exact opposite feeling. I really thought it was successful. I felt it helped us place where we needed to be. It helped convey emotion of the character, at least. It felt like it was the soundtrack happening in Cruella's head for me.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at that. Yeah, like the soundtrack in Cruella's brain. I can kind of see that. It just gets a little eye-rolly for me, I guess, when like we have scenes where like the Baroness's dogs are being bathed and we hear the song Car Wash. Like I speaking of dogs, Penny is growling right now in the background, so everyone's going to hear that. Deal with it. But yeah, so I mean, stuff like that is just a little much for me, but I like the angle you're presenting of like hearing it in Cruella's brain.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a little bit Birds of Prey for me when it came to the soundtrack.
You've lost me by mentioning Birds of Prey.
Sorry about it. I'm going to mention it 3 to 7 more times during this.
All right, well, let's talk about our feelings as if we have not been doing this already. Let's talk about our feelings on the film. Patrick, how did you feel overall about it?
Great question. I was pleasantly surprised by the film. I think it surpassed my whirlwind of expectations for the movie because I mean, who can track my expectations? They were up, they were down, but I think I think it definitely landed right in the middle in a great way for me.
Yeah, that feels about right. I was also pleasantly surprised by the film. I really enjoy the visuals. I mean, it is a great movie to look at, and it's really fun to watch the two Emmas. We got Emma Stone, we got Emma Thompson going head to head, and they're both like wonderful, wonderful actors in their own right, but when you put them together, it just works really, really well.
Yeah.
I was surprised at times. I was kind of checking out a little bit bored, I want to say, which I know sounds a little bit harsh, but there seemed to be kind of a repetitiveness to their confrontational scenes where I was like, well, we've kind of seen this before, but at the same time, they're both so fun to watch that I kind of forgave that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It makes total sense. I think the story was pretty good, but the delivery maybe didn't quite add up to a lot of it, if that makes sense. And I don't mean the acting. I think the cast was absolutely phenomenal. Couldn't have been a more well-cast movie. But I think I expected a little bit more action, if that makes sense. I sort of wanted to see Cruella's snap happen, and I didn't quite get that from the movie.
Yeah, I mean, we got a bit of a snap, but it wasn't certainly not like a absolutely justified snap. It was a shift that happened and was very noticeable, but I don't know how earned that shift was in that moment.
Yeah, I feel like this is an instance in which they could have swung a little bit harder in the way that they swung with Maleficent, though I think it seemed maybe they had cold feet because of Maleficent, that they swung way too hard with that one, and so they were a little hesitant on this movie. That's what it felt like for me anyways.
How dare you mention that M word in my presence? No, it's so funny. You can't help but compare the movies. Obviously, Maleficent is such a fantasy, and this one is based more in reality. And, I mentioned being a bit bored at times, but I will happily take boredom in a Disney film when it comes to a villain's prequel kind of story. I'll happily take boredom over the feeling of embarrassment I felt watching Maleficent.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely listened to to their audience in that they didn't necessarily try to make Cruella a good guy or give her too much of an explanation that you felt bad for her necessarily, if that makes sense. I think they kept her on the track of going to villainhood, but for me, the miss was she didn't quite get to villain. Do you know what I mean? I didn't quite get full villain Cruella. Yeah,
it's tough to do because, I mean, I don't think this is a spoiler, but by the end of this film, they want to establish a franchise, or at least they seem to want to establish a franchise. And to have her go full villain might have been too much for them to then revisit this world that they've established.
I think that's accurate. If I was a betting man, I would say we're going to get another one. We're going to get another Cruella, and I think they're going to go down sort of a Godfather 2 path with it, where we get even more prequelness and then also sort of a better setup of how she gets to where she is today.
Yeah, it does feel like there's going to be another film. I don't know if I'm feeling Godfather 2, but I love Godfather 2. It's the best of the Godfathers, so we'll just have to see where that heads. You know what I couldn't help thinking, Patrick, while I was watching the movie is that I was more interested in the elements that weren't so necessarily tied to Disney's 101 Dalmatians. I couldn't help but wonder, Patrick, how much better or more interested I would have been in the movie had this not been tied to 101 Dalmatians at all. If this wasn't Cruella's origin story, but instead, and I know this is obviously a Disney podcast and taking it out of the Disney realm completely removes any reason why we'd be talking about it, but the story to me would be more interesting if it was about a young woman trying to make her way in 1970s London and being attached to the fashion industry, but then also having this nemesis, that was the really interesting part to me, and not so much learning how Cruella became Cruella.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. There were so many different elements of this movie that felt like other movies. I think that's maybe where you're going. Like, it was a little bit Devil Wears Prada, right? It was a little bit Birds of Prey. It was a little bit all of these different. It was a little bit Catwoman. There was so many different storylines happening that maybe got a little bit muddled in this movie.
Yeah, surprisingly less The Devil Wears Prada than I was expecting, though.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
I definitely saw references to All About Eve, the classic film All About Eve, which I absolutely love, and even references, and probably because of its ties to the fashion industry, but also Phantom Thread. I don't know if you saw that Daniel Day-Lewis film, but also Phantom Thread kind of worked in there too. And then something that was referenced when the full trailer dropped, Joker vibes, right? Joker kind of seems like it also inspired the story a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I actually do wish they had gone further down that path. Like, again, I'll keep saying this. I really wanted to see this emotional break with Cruella, right? And they were so close to doing it, and I thought it would be interesting to give her a little bit of a mental health storyline. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a mental health storyline to begin with, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there is this duality to her, and she's told at a very young age to suppress the Cruella side of her personality. But I see what you're saying. You want to go even further with that, punch that a little bit more throughout the film.
Right, absolutely. Not that mental health is something to be taken lightly, but
Right.
I think that they could have teased that out a little bit more. Her struggle to sort of suppress the Cruella would have been more interesting for me to watch.
Yeah, I was having a hard time feeling any kind of attachment to Estella or Cruella. There wasn't that scene that really made me root for her either way, like to be either a successful designer or to go full baddie and become Cruella. Yeah. I think that really would have helped. We needed that kind of connection. Maybe other people have experienced that, but even in the scenes where, I'm thinking about the scene at the fountain where she's addressing her mother, was that scene successful? Did it help connect others to Estella Cruella? Because it didn't really land for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What did land for me, however, were the comedic bits in the film. It was so funny, and they had an amazing cast full of people who do comedy very well. And I'm not talking about slapstick comedy. There was just these really great one-liners that were happening left and right that were so perfectly placed. I was pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the cast members that really popped for us. I just want to mention right off the bat, Wink is a star.
And you're going to say that, and I absolutely agree with you this time around. I usually don't love cutesy animals, but boy, oh boy, does that dog need its own TV show.
Yes, Wink should be celebrated. I would like to nominate Wink for Best Supporting Actor in a Major Motion Picture.
Also, Best Costumes.
Best Costumes for Wink for sure. Okay, now that we got Wink talk out of the way, Patrick, who did you really love in this movie?
Emma Thompson, for me, was the star of this show. And not only because she's Emma Thompson and the character is so great, but she was so good at being unlikable and mesmerizing at the same time. And she was so funny.
Yeah, she was really funny. So dry, that Emma Thompson. And what's interesting is you feel, perhaps when you watch the trailer or know a bit about the story, you feel like, have we seen this from Emma Thompson before? But when you watch the movie, in fact, you have not seen this from Emma Thompson before. She is so commanding on screen. I mean, that's in any movie she's in, but she's so reserved in this film. And that's where a lot of the character's humor comes from, in the fact that she is so reserved that she cannot help but not express emotion. Did that even make sense? But even when, like, the references where she says, "You're so funny," like there's no hint of her even about to laugh when she says things like that.
Yeah, she's really giving Meryl Streep a run for her money in this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. And interestingly, I was rooting for her more than I was for Estella or Cruella. I just think her story maybe was more compelling than Estella and Cruella's.
Yeah, her story was more fleshed out. I think you really got a sense of who this character was, and maybe that's just because Emma Thompson is so good that you can't help but root for her as a person.
I referenced this at the top of this segment, but how did you feel about Horace and Jasper? Horace was played by Paul Walter Hauser, and Jasper was played by Joel Fry.
I thought they were great. I was so relieved that they didn't make these two sort of like I'm thinking the robbers in Home Alone or a Laurel and Hardy situation. It could have easily been so corny, but they were so lovable that again, I want a movie based on them and their friendship as well.
Yeah, it was really interesting too how Jasper and Estella's relationship was portrayed in this story, because there was a bit more of a connection, kind of a romantic or potential romantic connection there. And I wish they would have explored that a bit more too.
I have a feeling we might get more of that in the sequel. I'm just going to put it out there. A sequel's happening. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
Here's to that. I have a feeling that might happen. Joel Fry, boy, could there be a more handsome man? He's delightful to watch.
So attractive. There were a couple of attractive guys in this movie. When they came on screen, I was like, oh, hello.
Yes. Also, Paul Walter Hauser as Horace was such a delight. I wanted more from him. His timing is so good, and he's so earnest in playing a dummy that it was perfect for me.
Yeah, could have easily gone buffoon, but he pulled that back, and he worked with Craig Gillespie in I, Tonya. He was so fantastic in I, Tonya. And again, really great and kind of reserved. And I suppose that was a choice, too, by Craig Gillespie and these two gentlemen and the writers as well, to kind of separate from the original live-action remake of 101 Dalmatians, in which Horace and Jasper are absolute idiots and are more slapstick, whereas here it was much more kind of cerebral style throwaway comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of comedy, I really loved and wanted more of, I get why we didn't get more of him, but Jamie Demetriou, who played Gerald, the Liberty of London shop manager, basically.
Yes.
So funny. He was delightful. People may remember him in earlier episodes of the TV show Fleabag, and he's also on the Four Weddings and a Funeral TV series. He is comic gold. Loved him.
He's so great at playing that kind of slimy, sleazy, power-hungry, but of what kind of castle is he the king of, type of guy. A really successful character there, and a really good kind of translation of what a cartoon character brought to real life is like.
Yeah, that's a really great point. A lot of the actors really did a great job of doing that. It never really felt like a real here and now movie. It definitely felt like a live action animated movie.
What did you think about John McCrea, who played Artie? It's kind of the first time I'm aware of anywhere where we saw kind of a non-binary character presented in a Disney live action film.
I was really happy to see that. Again, I wish they would have gone a little bit further with him. I think that they were playing a fine line of what they can get away with right now within Disney, but it was clear that Artie is in the LGBTQ plus community as a character.
Yeah, and a believable character in that community, right? Like not relying on stereotypes. It was more about the fashion and the kind of fabulous lifestyle that could provide.
Yeah, for sure. And John McCrea, it's great to see him in a movie. A lot of people may not know who he is, but he sort of shot to stardom in the West End. Everybody's talking about Jamie. He just got amazing reviews from that. I think they filmed that as well. I think you can watch it somewhere right now, and it's going to become a movie again very soon.
That's right.
Yeah, he's a delight. He's a character that I also wanted more of a storyline from. I would really like to see his friendship with Estella / Cruella blossom more.
Once Tuella comes out, I'm calling it. It's going to be called Tuella. Okay? The sequel. Yeah, their relationship, you want more of it when you see them together in the film because they have such great chemistry. So hopefully in the sequel, they'll explore more about what connects those two and how they, I don't want to say use each other, but how they celebrate each other's talents to kind of climb the social ladder.
Yeah. They have an adoration of each other.
Absolutely. Adoration. I love it. Yes.
And we should talk about, I really got a kick out of this iteration because it is a different iteration of the characters Roger and Anita.
Yes, we're celebrating some diversity with Roger and Anita.
So great, so great. But also definitely a different storyline for them than what you will get in 101 Dalmatians.
Yes, this is definitely kind of where Disney decided to explore the space, so to speak, and give Roger and Anita more of a backstory, which they absolutely needed, obviously, in this prequel. But they gave them more oomph, I would say, gave them more interest.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next for them. I have a feeling that the next movie might be more about them than it is Cruella, and then who knows where it's going to go from there. But the fact that they didn't necessarily give them a meet cute yet in this movie is fascinating to me.
Not that he was like a standout in the cast, but I do want to just celebrate Mark Strong, who played John, the Baroness's valet, because he's just very hot.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to celebrate his face, the whole package, really, you know?
Yeah.
I had strong feelings for Mark Strong. I mean, since we're talking about the cast, Adam,
yes.
why not keep going? I really wanted to applaud, although she was in it for very little of the movie, Billy Gadsden, who played young Cruella, did a great job. So funny and charming and engaging. I also wanted more of her.
Yeah, you did want more of her. You know, when the film was starting, it was setting up this kind of Roald Dahl world. Does that make sense? Like, I was getting that from the story anyway. It kind of peters out once we lose her, but it is such a charming introduction to her, and she was such a great little Cruella/Estella.
Yeah, you almost get a little bit of a Matilda feeling from it.
Very Matilda, yes.
Very that.
All right, so now that we've talked about the cast that we liked, what didn't work for you? We've kind of already talked about this, but overall, what do you think the film needed that you didn't get from it?
If I'm honest, I think it needed some more, you're going to hate me for saying this, but some more time to bake. I feel like they were onto something and they didn't quite land it in the way that I wanted to see it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I agree with that. I think they were walking a pretty fine line and they didn't know what side of that line they should be on at certain points of the film. And again, I will applaud that in only the sense that I didn't feel ashamed at the end of the movie or I didn't feel embarrassed again, but it could have at times afforded more of a crossing of that line one way or the other to keep me more engaged.
Yeah, I think I will say this. They are on the right track now when it comes to handling villains, because villains are such a staple of Disney, you know, and the fans love them so much that you have to handle them with care and you have to keep them villains, in my opinion. So I think they're on the right track now, should they do another villain story somewhere down the line.
It's going to be interesting to see how this is handled in the parks. If you have guests approaching Cruella and mentioning story elements from this movie, she's going to have to react to those elements, right?
You would think so. I mean, that's sort of the Disney way. So yeah, the the women playing Cruella right now in Disneyland are in for a surprise.
They're doing some homework right now.
They sure are. What about you? What wasn't necessarily as successful in the movie for you?
I agree with you. I think it was just the handling of Cruella's madness. We didn't see that pop from her. We didn't get the emotional connection we needed to her. And that wasn't Emma Stone's fault. She was giving us everything she could, and she's just fabulous in general. I'll watch her in anything. And she was great in the movie, but she needed more of a pivot or an impactful moment in the story that we could really react and relate to.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's funny, we didn't really even mention Emma Stone. We were talking about the cast. She was great. I have to imagine that you clocked this as well. There's a really lovely moment that made me laugh out loud when she's driving the car, and she nailed it. The position that Cruella contorts her body in when she's driving a car is so specific, and she flawlessly nailed it.
Yeah, it's like shoulders up, head down, hunched over.
So funny. So funny. It was great. It was a delicious nod to the movies.
And speaking of that nod, there's also a great little nod to Betty Lou Gerson in the film, who appears just very briefly while Estella is a maid in a hotel pulling a grift. I think that's what they're called, a grifting. Anyway, you see a moment from a live action film that Betty Lou Gerson was in, who was the voice of Cruella in the original animated film.
Yeah, it was delightful. I kind of wanted her to then emulate that at some point. You sort of... Right? You sort of went, oh, that's where she gets that from, and then have her do it. She never actually did it, which, again, they got so close to the Cruella snap, and that would have been a perfect vision or auditory snap for her.
Yeah, and kind of a great little wink to the Disney fans who would then recognize that, she was pulling this laugh, these kind of mannerisms from this character who originally portrayed Cruella.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I think we are so in love with Cruella DeVille as a villain because she's so dramatic and she's almost she's a campy drag queen a little bit. Yeah. And we didn't really get that out of the movie. We didn't see Cruella go full Cruella.
That's true. And before I watched this, I watched the original 101 Dalmatians, the animated film, and there's actually so little of Cruella in it. I'm wondering if maybe that air of mystery is needed. And now that we kind of know the backstory, does it make her less impactful?
That's fair. Yeah. We as audience members sort of imprint a storyline onto Cruella, right? Yeah. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Again, sequel obviously coming. I guess we'll have to see how well it does, but I think it's fair to say that they're teeing up a sequel with Emma Stone returning, so we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, in fact, she's been giving interviews saying that she is ready to return, so maybe giving us a little bit of a nod that it might happen or is in the plans for happening, so we shall see indeed. So let's return now to our overall feelings of the movie, shall we?
Yeah, I was entertained. I enjoyed it. Again, we talked about the issues with the film, but overall, this feels much more comfortable to me as a villain origin story.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think for me, here's how I'd rank it. I would go cast 10 out of 10.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Art direction, costumes, etc. 10 out of 10 for me.
Yep, raves so far.
Music, I would go a 9 out of 10.
Great. Okay.
And then I think for story and execution, I would go 6 out of 10.
Okay. So you have notes then.
We have some notes.
Yeah, I would agree with those rankings. Yeah, the story needs to be beefed up a little bit, and we'll probably see that in the sequel. It does seem like, oddly enough, though she is a villain, they're giving her a bit of a Batman treatment. She's got her Alfred set up for the sequel. She's got her Horace and Jasper, so we'll see where they take this.
I like it. I like that. Interestingly, earlier this year, Disney released a book called Cruella, Hello, Cruel Heart that takes place just a few years before this movie takes place. So it's more of her teenage years. And I'm reading it right now. It's actually pretty good. So I'm interested to know if that is a little bit of product placement before the movie, that we are going to get to see this storyline as well. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we would love to know your thoughts on the live-action prequel to 101 Dalmatians. That's right. We want to know what you thought about Cruella. Some of you have actually already sent us your reviews, and I can't believe it, so we'll share those on next week's episode. But for those of you that haven't, please reach out to us. You can do so on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at GDTD Podcast.
Or you can leave us your thoughts via email or voice memo at info@gaysdothed.com.
Patrick, right here, right now, give me your best Cruella laugh. Okay.
Was that good?
I think maybe the movie led you astray a bit. Did you even watch the movie?
I've had a snap. I've had my own special snap.
Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Adam DeVille.
Now there's a thought.
Just one thought.
Just one thought. Should I change my last name to DeVille?
I think so. I might actually change mine because I'm going to make a coat out of your dog.
You know what? I was going to say, don't you dare, but the way she's been behaving during this recording session, go for it.
Although she's quite small, so maybe one mitten.
One penny mitten. Yes, Patrick, we've reached the end of this episode, and that means it is time for Quick D. This week we are doing Quick D question. That's classic Quick D for all of you longtime listeners, in which Patrick and I ask each other a question we have not been privy to prior to recording, and we answer it off the cuff.
Do we, though?
No, we actually plan for weeks and weeks what our answers are going to be. For anyone who's listened, you know that is the case because our answers are always absolute perfection.
That's right. There's a full writer's room working on these.
All right, Patrick, I'm going to ask you my question first. Deal with it.
Oh, okay. Dealt.
Here is my question for you. Patrick, we both watched Cruella.
Did we, though?
We did. We both have seen both Maleficent films. And now, Patrick, it is time for you to choose what Disney villain is going to get the live-action treatment next. And I need you to tell me, what's that story going to be about?
Ooh, what a wonderful gift of a question.
You're very welcome. Lay it on me.
I think it seems clear that we are going to get a live-action movie of the character Chernabog.
Oh, okay. I mean, where is this going to go?
I'll tell you where it's going to go, Adam. It's going to be a real prequel story where we get Teen Chernabog. In fact, that's what it's called. It's called Teenabog.
Teenabog. All right. Also up for grabs as a drag name. But tell me all about what this film is going to be about. He's a teenager?
Yeah, teenage Chernabog. He went by Cherney at that point.
Cherney, cute. Got to give him a nickname.
That's right. Cherney was bullied hard.
Oh, no.
in middle school. Really, yeah. He was different from all of the other demons who owned mountains. You know.
Yes, he absolutely was so different from those other demons.
His mountain wasn't quite as big as the other demon mountain owners.
Okay, is that a metaphor?
It's getting there.
Okay,
we're gonna go there. And young Cherney also, had a little bit of a crush on his buddy Bernaborg.
Is this diving into a little bit of a autobiographical kind of?
Could be. Who can say? It's definitely a coming out story for sure.
Yep, coming out of that mountain.
Coming out of that mountain. Cherney was a little bit scrawny as a young demon. So we get to see his journey to baby demon into daddy demon.
I love a Cherney journey story.
And the soundtrack is actually by Journey. So there we go.
Well, now I'm 100% on board. I love me some Journey.
That's right. So there you have it. Chernaborg, young teen, Cherney journey, working title, but it's a coming out story for sure.
Played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
I love it. I would see this movie.
Great. You'll be the only one probably, but I appreciate your ticket.
And because I am your friend, I will pay for premiere access.
Coming out on Disney Plus in 2019. Well, moving on, Adam. It is your turn for a quick D question. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
Great. Here we go. As you know, as all of us know from my delightful news story about Winnie the Poohsicle that's happening, there are some new storylines that are happening in Winnie the Poohsicle. They're in New York now. They're going to pull some references probably from Pooh in the City.
Yes.
So tell us, Adam, what we can expect, these new storylines for Winnie the Pooh and Friends in Winnie the Poohsicle.
I am uniquely qualified to talk about this because I famously lived in New York for 2.5 years.
Eating nothing but honey.
And I had several encounters with Pooh in the City.
I'm sure there were many subway rides.
Yeah. So I think to really embrace the kind of New Yorkiness of it all, I think we're going to have Rabbit own a hot dog cart.
I like where you're going with this.
Rabbit has his vegetable garden in the 100-acre woods, but in the city, he is a hot dog cart vendor.
Perfect.
New York is currently in the midst of a mayoral election. I think Owl's running for mayor.
Ooh, I would vote for Owl. I give a hoot about that.
Give a hoot. Vote for Owl. Yes, I think Piglet is a tortured artist living in Soho.
I see it.
Down on his luck. Can't afford rent.
What's he doing to make that money, Adam?
Piglet's really seen some things, Poor Piglets.
Not anymore, poor Piglet. Rich Piglet now.
Oh.
Successful Piglet. That will do it for this episode of Gays Do the D. Thanks for listening. To become a patron of the podcast, visit our website at gaysdothed.com/donate. For a donation of any amount, you can receive exclusive Gays Do the D content and help us continue to bring you the very best Disney news and discussion. Continue the conversation after this episode on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GDTD Podcast. Submit your questions or show ideas to info@gaysdothed.com. Have a great week, everybody. See ya real soon.